Reduce his budget vote. Order, honorable members. Continue, honorable minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson of our session, Honorable Frolic, our Chairperson of the Joint Committee Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, His Excellency Comrade Charles Ngagula, Honorable members, ministers, especially our Chairperson of our cluster, Minister Mapisa Ngagula, Deputy Minister of State Security, Comrade Ellen Mulekane, and other Deputy Ministers that are here, our Deputy Chief Whip of the ANC, Honorable Comrade Doris Lagute, our Chief Whip of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, Comrade J.J. Skosane, Honorable Members of Parliament and National Council of Provinces, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, the Inspector General of our Intelligence, Dr. Isaac Dintwe, the Director General of State Security, Arthur Fraser, and the entire SSA leadership and members, veterans of the intelligence services, the Auditor General of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. T.K. Makwetu, the leadership of the ANC, NEC members that are here, provincial secretaries, the Youth League leadership that are here, Alliance members and Progressive Youth Alliance, Mahlobo and Malekane family, distinguished guests, comrades and friends, fellow South Africans. Honorable Chairperson and members, during the celebration of our 23 years of our hard-won freedom and democracy, His Excellency President Zuma implored us into action as a nation to deal with the vestiges of colonialism and apartheid. In his speech at the Georgetown University in 1987, the ANC President, Comrade O.R. Tambo, had this to say, I quote, "We seek to create a united, democratic and non-national society. We have a vision of South Africa in which black and white shall live and work together as equals in conditions of peace and prosperity. As a country and her people, we are indeed on course. Many of our citizens have access to basic services like water, housing, sanitation, roads, electricity, education, healthcare, and social security services that were denied before. However, we are the first one to admit that more still needs to be done in the construction of this national democratic society. We can pride ourselves with the achievement of political freedom that included universal suffrage, but economic freedom remains elusive. It is for this belief that our freedom is incomplete. In realizing the ideas of the National Democratic Revolution, the ANC has decided on radical socio-economic transformation agenda as a path towards building a country that is only united in diversity, but also united in equality. The majority of our population in this country, that are blacks in general, African in particular, are economically disempowered and are already understandably impatient and dissatisfied with the lack of real economic gains from our freedom. These levels of poverty, inequality, and unemployment are unacceptable, unsustainable, and pose a serious security threat to our nation. In certain aspects of our democratic society, we know that our country is experiencing a number of challenges that appear to be testing the strength and depth of our constitutional democracy. We need to have full confidence in the institutions of our democracy, which our constitution establishes. And we must be confident that these matters will be handled in a manner that doesn't destabilize our country. As a nation, we have proven that through our diversity and unity, we can stand together and emerge as one people. Our collectivism and unity of people should be directed to defending and defeating the scourge of racism, tribalism, inequality, poverty, and unemployment, and avoid a situation wherein the revolution is devouring its own children. Our mandate from the Constitution and other relevant laws regarding national security by securing South Africa's sovereignty, territorial integrity, independence, her people, critical infrastructure, assets, and interest. As we have indicated before in this House, in seeking to fulfill our legal mandate, we are always mindful of the need to find checks and balances to government use of excessive harsh measures towards citizens in the name of security while balancing human rights. In South Africa, the check and balances have been developed after the dawn of our democracy. Let me take this opportunity, the chairperson of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence and your team, to congratulate you for concluding the work with the appointment of the new Inspector General, our own Dr. Isaac Dintwe. On behalf of the department and our family, we should convey our sincere congratulations to Dr. Dintwe and wish him all the best in this important national task. Therefore, there is no better way in celebrating the national security achievements to date than to rededicate the national intelligence structures to continue the good story of a further consolidation of our democracy through the creation of conditions of peace and stability that is necessary to make further improvements to the lives of all South Africans, as well as those of our SADC region, our continent, and the rest of the world. I'm once again reminded by the words of our former President Tambo at 1969 Mugoro Conference when he said, I quote, "The victories of the national reparation movement were most in cases not easy, smooth and complete, nor was the retreat of the imperialist ways unplanned or completely defeated. Imperialism resorted to many political, military, economic, and other stratagems to extend its lease of life and to save as much as it could in its erstwhile colonialism." I close quote. Since the advent of our democracy, it has taken us so many years since these words were uttered by our president to witness their manifestation in our country and the world. The instability of global environment will continue to increase strain on our economic, political, and security foundation of international order that have underpinned global stability since the end of the Second World War. Economic instability, mass migration, political dysfunctionality, and foreign security crises have enabled the rise of populist movement, testing the commitments of a number of our countries to our pluralist values. In the context of this intra-civilization identity crisis, the liberal international order is facing an increasing strain. State and non-state actors will seize this opportunity to undermine the legitimacy and control of governments and to promote their narrow interest. As a result, states will be forced to increasingly on threats within their own borders to the detriment of international cooperation. As security services, the thrust of our mandate is outlined in the NDP 2030, which is our vision. I quote, "In 2030, people living in South Africa should feel safe at home, at school, and at work, and they should enjoy community life free of fear. Women walk freely in the streets and children play safely outside." Close quote. In describing our current state of peace and stability in our country, our departure point as security services is how South Africa is relatively stable. Notwithstanding our security assessment, which identify economic weaknesses as a major threat to our national security and interest. Chairperson and members, all of us will agree that on our constitutional enshrined rights of association, movement, and protest, in relation to the latter, our Bill of Rights provides in Chapter 2, I quote, "Everyone has a right to peaceful and unarmed, to assembly, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petition," close quote. A series of concerns have emerged around the perceived threat towards using fears about security to justify eroding human rights and freedom. Finding a balance on how to effectively address security while respecting human rights constitute a key challenge of our time. If we look back in the history of our own country and the struggle, we can see that ours was a very violent nation, where people find their voices through various forms of protest that ended with blood on the floor. It was the darkest period in the history of our country. It can also be argued that violent nature of many protests in our country and the violent nature of certain crime categories in our society today reflect the old violence from which we come from as a nation. We therefore have to condemn any wanton destruction of property, vandalization, and the times death that is associated with some protest. Last year, we saw the proliferation of violent service delivery protest, violent student protest, violent industrial action. In addition, we have also witnessed violence in relation to demarcation issues, such as those witnessed in Vuane in Limpopo, where schools were burnt down and then destroyed. We have also noticed housing shortages that have culminated in increased incidents of land invasion, which have been largely been politicized. Instability in the transport sector remains one of our challenges. The underlying conflict over ranks and routes is compounded by the involvement of security companies. The introduction of Uber, which has resulted in the conflict with the meter taxi industry, has further exacerbated conflicts in this sector. The involvement of some government officials do not assist our cause of creating stability in this sector. We will therefore continue to work tirelessly with all our partners in search of finding a lasting solution to our challenges of this industry. Thank you. Insecurity posed by some private security companies is not only limited to the transport sector as earlier reflected. It extends to the involvement of our national in conflicts in the continent and the other parts of the world. The ever-expanding footprint in this industry and the cash-based system of transacting making curbing illegal activities of this industry very difficult. The continued provision of security services at our national key points and strategic installation by private security companies, which are foreign-owned, is a problem for our country. It is essential that these strategic installations are protected by South Africans as a means to secure our own sovereignty. It is our conviction that the Private Security Industry Regulation Amendment Bill will assist in resolving some of these challenges, including the transformation imperatives we seek. Our position remains that the right to protest must be exercised in a manner that is responsible, that doesn't impact negatively on others. In all of these, we have also noting the disturbing trend of state and non-state actors who continue to hijack legitimate socio-economic contents of our people for narrow political gains aimed at effecting unconstitutional regime change. As political leaders, we must show political majority by denouncing exploitation of genuine community concern for our ulterior motive. We equally call on the business community when dealing with industrial issues to act in a responsible way when engaging with workers. Honorable Chair and members, personal security and national security in the 21st century both depend on protecting sets of systems that never existed before until the 20th century. The digital and information age has brought exciting opportunities in developing our economies, improving our healthcare system, education, agricultural production, our military, provision of services, and the list is endless. It is in the same vein where electronic computing pose some of the most complex challenges that the world has ever faced. Attacks on any of these networks will potentially have disastrous consequences for individuals and for society, as witnessed in the recent ransomware attack of more than 100 countries, affecting thousands of organizations worldwide as we speak. The cyber attack affected many big countries and small countries. Especially in the UK, the health system was affected. In Germany, the systems are affected. In Russia and so forth, even in our own country. The international community must be concerned over this threats by possible use of such technologies, both in civil and military spheres, at the expense of achieving international peace, security, and stability, undermining sovereignty of countries and security of states, and interfering in internal affairs of other countries, violation of citizen private life, destabilization of inner political and social and economic situation, advancing racism, terrorism, ethnicity, and sectarian strife. Finding a balance of respecting human rights in the field of information security and communication technologies continue to be a subject by various proponents to the question. In our quest to secure critical information infrastructure, government has made significant strides to protect its information from attacks that emanate from cyberspace. Our country is one of the targets from cybercrime, and research has shown that our small companies and ordinary citizens, especially our unsuspecting children, are being targeted more and more by cyber criminals, state actors, and hacktivists. Ransomware, identity theft, cyberbullying, internet banking fraud, misuse of social network, and many other types of attacks are prevalent. We have made significant strides with in partnership with institutions of higher learning. We have also launched a building program that will bolster our capacity to respond to the problems of cyber insecurity. This initiative will not only bolster the capacity of government to respond to cyber insecurity, but it will also create the skills needed that will improve our cyber security for both public and private sectors. Good progress has been also recorded on the policy and legislative environment, including relevant coordinating structures. The Cybercrime and Cybersecurity Bill is currently before US Parliament. And after the executive, we have gone through the process of consultation. This bill will seek to ensure that the country has the relevant instrument legally are in place. Information security and cybersecurity is a matter of discussion globally. As we consider appropriate legislation as parliamentarians, we should address the following issues. One, acts of aggression aimed at discrediting the sovereignty and violation of security and territorial integrity of states and threatening international peace, security, and stability. Two, for causing economic and other damages, including destructive impact on elements of information infrastructure. Three, for terrorist purposes, as well as advocates of terrorism, recruitment for terrorist activities. Four, for committing crime, including those connected with unauthorized access to computer information, interference into internal affairs of states, violation of public order, incitement of interracial, interethnic, sectarian strife, advocates of racism and xenophobic ideas, of theories that ignite hatred and discrimination and incite and also destabilize governance. Lastly, for dissemination of information that is harmful for socio-political and socio-economic system, spiritual, moral, cultural, and environmental in other states. A number of governments are using underhand tactics in pursuit of their narrow national interest and national security. In the process, destabilizing a number of countries, like what we have witnessed in Libya, Brazil, and currently in Syria. During the past year, these countries, they've continued with their efforts in collaboration with negative domestic forces, including to undermine our own democratic and constitutional advances. Their modus operandi is through penetration, influencing and ultimately savaging in the quest to advance and promote their national interest. They are using these platforms where they will be in a position to divert governance and the possibility that the broader purpose of government will be hijacked by those with ulterior motives, as I have said. Then they use a number of platforms. These platforms are not limited to mainstream media, NGOs, CPOs, foreign and multinational companies, funding of opposition activities, infiltration and recruitment of in key government departments, religious bodies, prominent influential persons, and penning of covert intelligence networks and covert actions on our own soil. As a country, our message is to all South Africans, we should always be careful not to knowingly and unknowingly yield to those who want to exploit your genuine concerns of our people, to drive a wedge amongst us as people, ultimately changing the government of the people, elected by the people. Transnational crime network, arms and ammunition, drug and human trafficking, stock theft, vehicle theft, and money laundering have become one of the international security challenges we face. Gangsterism and drugs abuse continue to ravage our communities. We must deal decisively with the prevalence of gangsterism in our communities and crime. Our concern is the targeting of schools and youth centers as recruitment platforms for this. Linked to the issue of gangsterism, we must also know that the security agencies have been working hard. A lot of money has been discovered in our ports of entry, weapons, and we've done a lot. Another issue that we're dealing with is the issue about the attack on our economy. Illicit economy, a significant amount of cash has been detected leaving our shores to foreign jurisdiction. And in our own terms, and in terms of our report, illicit financial flows is estimated at 80 billion rands. With regard to these flows, they were brought into a sharper focus by the work that was done by the AU Commission high-level panel led by our former President Mbeki. The information that has been leaked of the Panama law firm Masaki Forensa has illustrated that there are revelations that some South Africans and companies are being cited in the reports. Over the years, it is clear that South African economy has been affected negatively by decades of transfer pricing and other forms of illegal capital flagged by multinational companies, especially those who operate in the extractive industry. In our period under review, the threat posed by illicit mining in precious metals and related crime continue to proliferate across the country, and this is manifested in the displacement of illicit activities to previously unaffected provinces like KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, with respect to the issues of this. This has been exacerbated by our current situation. We have also noted with concern the increase of infrastructure crimes, which affects the livelihood of our communities, syndicated theft amongst others, COPA, affect the delivery of critical services, and times results in community protest. And we're working with many of our SOEs and municipalities because these are normally carried by people who know the system inside. And we are going to continue to put more work on economic intelligence, and so that we can deal with these issues. We are working currently with National Treasury, SARS, the DTI, the financial intelligence, good governance, service delivery, and ultimately stability, particularly at local level. We will continue to focus on corruption within the public service and private sector. Our anti-corruption task team, as reported on Sunday, we have made progress, more than R500 million in terms of the freezing orders have been obtained, 87 successful prosecutions done, especially around our own system of government. We are enhancing up the vetting process to improve the integrity of our officials that are employed in government, including state-owned companies. We are in the process of digitizing the vetting process while finalizing the intelligence regulation that will enable the conduct of vetting and compulsory requirements. For us, integrity of government officials is paramount in our fight against corruption.
Honourable Minister, you have 1 minute left. Order.
In concluding, Chair, we want to thank His Excellency, our President, the ANC, the Deputy Minister, the DG, and the leadership, and the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. We shall work with vigor to implement bold and decisive intervention towards socio-economic transformation in order to eradicate poverty and unemployment. We are obligated by human solidarity, love for peace, justice, and equality to be tolerant, reject prejudice based on race, creed, gender, religion, and sectarianism. Freedom and equality is a cornerstone of a truly united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous society we all yearn for. Our responsibility is to unite and lead the nation while accepting the burden of our history, our responsibilities to the people, and expects better quality of life. They are hope that their children and next generation can grow better, have decent work and better life for all. The ANC has led our people in scoring accomplishment that has captured our imagination and attention of the world. We have every reason to be proud. However, we are proud, but cannot allow complacency to set in,
Honourable
and
Minister,
will never rest in our
your
laurels.
time has now
I
expired.
humbly submit this budget vote for the Department of State Security for your consideration. God bless Africa, her sons and daughters. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next speaker is the Honourable Ngakula.
Honorable Chairperson, ministers who are here and deputy ministers as well, and honorable members. Allow me, Honorable Chairperson, to appreciate the presence at this debate of Dr. Isaac Dintwe, who has recently taken up his position as Inspector General of Intelligence following his swearing in on the 22nd March. Many of the things, Dr. Dintwe, you will hear in this chamber today will be part of the lessons you should embrace as you ready yourself to discharge the tasks in respect of your oversight role. I want to commend you, Inspector General, for respecting the concept of institutional memory. I hear you have retained all senior staff members of your staff complement. When it has become fashionable for some leaders of the various entities of state to fire all members of staff when they assume duty. You may be part of the emerging breed that understands there is merit in acknowledging and centralizing experience. That will enrich you as you begin to assemble the building blocks that will buttress your structure of oversight. It is important at times, Honorable Chairperson and members, to look back and appreciate how far we have come as a nation. I know it is easier to be negative and nitpicking in circumstances where proper analysis is required, especially during these days where an amazing... Are there problems? What are the problems?
Honourable member,
to interact with me?
Honourable member,
No, interact
just
with
continue
me.
with your speech. May I also request members who enter the chamber to do so in a way that is not disruptive, please.
I know it is easier to be negative and nitpicking in circumstances where proper analysis is required, especially during these days where an amazing proliferation of analysts of every form and description has happened in our country. But just think for a moment how difficult it must have been to assimilate the various intelligence structures of the disparate forces in the country to build a united intelligence community as part of South Africa's security services. For the benefit of those who were still young at the time, the security services were defined into main groups: the statutory and non-statutory forces for integration. Those forces constituted some that came from South Africa as it was defined at the time, and the non-statutory forces came from the armed forces of the various revolutionary movements of the time. The statutory forces, therefore, were representing South Africa, the Bandustan forces from Bophuthatswana, Siskai, Gazankulu, Kangwane, Kwandebele, KwaZulu, Libua, Kwakwa, Transkei, and Venda. Of course, by the 2nd of December, 1994, they were all put together in terms of the National Intelligence Service Act. If we could do this with minor hiccups, we ought to be able to deal with our current difficulties. Over the years, There have been various amendments to the law in intelligence to try to make it relevant to the demands of the times. Experience tells us, Honorable Chairperson and members, that criminals run faster than the wheels of justice. The intelligence community was established to be our people's eyes and ears, to countermand, therefore, crime and criminality. The practitioners of intelligence are not only expected to be professional in their work, their sense of anticipation must be extraordinarily sharp. Therefore, they must be able to read correctly the various signs that often pop up to indicate lurking danger. Crime and criminality internationally have burgeoned to levels which may not have been expected when we formed our intelligence community in 1994. We certainly knew of the specter of international terrorism, but not how fast and widespread it would grow, and how using various deadly weapons in cyberspace, it would sow unbridled destruction across the world. Crime and criminality, on top of which sits international terrorism, has easy access to money. The money may be fake or proceeds of crime that must be laundered in various countries through the hands of partners in crime, or comes from supporters, especially with respect to fundamentalist practices. Recruits are always available to crime bosses and terror syndicates. Some of those recruits include children. Our experience tells us that some of those children have been recruited from our own shores, which indicates we are not insulated, although we may be relatively safe at this time. There are certain new measures we have to adopt, Honorable Minister, to ensure that our intelligence community is always equal to the challenges of crime and criminality, but especially so terrorism. On one hand, we need to look at our law and how we can make it more effective in the work we do. And on the other, to capacitate our intelligence community at the levels of both human and material resources. The ANC had a concept during its underground existence when it was banned, where its cadres, especially Umkhonto weSizwe, were trained on how to implement given missions. The first thing was not just to understand the mission, but to internalize it. It had to occupy your mind. You had to know when to start, when to complete, and when to report. Of course, as you planned for the implementation of the mission as a commander of your unit, you had to know exactly how many cadres you needed and how much resources were necessary for the fulfillment of the mission. I raise this because there was in there strict command and control and professionalism in the discharge of the task. We need this even under current circumstances. We cannot afford to be lackadaisical in our approach to the assembly of the intelligence product, because it is that product that will show whether we indeed are the eyes and ears of our people, and therefore we are able to protect them from danger. Collection is done on the ground, Honorable Minister. Collectors must not be in offices. They must be on the ground. They must have informers who are tried and tested and spread across our communities and involved in all human endeavors in those communities. All reports from whatever quarter must be checked and analyzed. On our part as parliamentarians, we must go through our intelligence law with a fine-toothed comb to determine whether such law, after such a long time, is still adequate and still can be used as an appropriate springboard in the fight against crime and criminality. We must also ensure that all necessary resources, human and material, are available to our intelligence community for it to be able to do its work. It goes without saying that in the face of accelerated criminality, we need adequately resourced security structures in South Africa. The first resource, of course, is of the humankind. We cannot place our intelligence project in the hands of inadequate practitioners whose presence in that community is based on questions that are extraneous to the desire to have highly skilled intelligence officers. The qualification we want to rely on is that the intelligence officer is equal to the job, beyond the shadow of a doubt. That brings into play the necessity of training and retraining. It brings in strict regimes of command and control by immediate superiors right through to you, Honorable Minister. The intelligence field is not an arena for laggards and non-achievers. It needs officers and agents who fully understand their mandate to, quote, reflect the resolve of South Africans, to live as equals, to live in peace and harmony, to be free from fear and want, and to seek a better life, as our Constitution enjoins us to do. What does that mean? It means our intelligence community must open its ears to hear the early rumblings of our people, because where they live, racism is starting to reawaken. There are some rumbles in some communities because our people, they have not, after so many years, started to taste some of the elements of the promised better life. Other frustrations which are slowly growing have to do with increased threats to their lives by criminals, especially against the girl child and vulnerable members of our communities. Our intelligence officers must pick up those noises from the time they are just a murmur that may be inaudible to the untrained ear. Government as a whole will also have to be persuaded incessantly to address all reported problems, to fulfill the injunction by our Constitution, to ensure that our people live in peace and harmony and are free from fear and want. Your intelligence officers, Honorable Minister, are surely generating the necessary information to warn of impending problems and may be reporting, as they are expected to do, to the other arms of the security establishment. Please, Minister, talk to your colleagues in the security cluster on those matters to ensure there is always adequate response to clear and present dangers. All of us, Honorable Minister and members, must ensure that we work together to strengthen our law and rededicate ourselves to the fulfillment of the constitutional demands to do everything possible so that all our people can finally arrive at the level where they will say, without any reservation, that they have a better life. I want, as I finish, to commend the members of my committee from the various parties represented in this House. And I want to say to them, for as long as we work the way that we do, we are inputting into the very better life that we talk about for our people. And that we will be able, therefore, with our influence, to ensure that the intelligence product will enable us to deal with all the problems that we have at the level of security in our country. And in the end, we shall be happy to say we were part and parcel of the building blocks that ensure that in the end, we were able to reduce some of the crimes and criminality that affect our people so negatively. I want to thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable H.B. Groenewald.
Honourable House Chairperson, Honourable Ministers, Honourable Members of Parliament and guests. Met die swak leierskap deur die president geopenbaar, het dit ongeveer 2 jaar geneem om die pos Inspekteur-Generaal van Intelligensie in die Departement van Intelligensie aan te stel. Die vertraging het meegebring dat belangrike sake rakende intelligensie nie met dringendheid aangespreek kon word nie en het Suid-Afrika op die agtervoet geplaas ten opsigte van ander lande. South Africa suffered the most cyber attacks, and our minister also mentioned it, and I think we are in the committee are very worried about it. Cyber attacks on the African continent. In just over 1 year, with 2014 losses alone estimate about 15 billion rand. The private and public sector and government are not taking the threat seriously enough. Cybercrime often goes unreported, but researchers have found that it is growing rapidly. Cybercrime and cybersecurity bill is due to the process by Parliament this year, which will allow the public to give input into the issues when it opened for comments. South Africa law enforcement agencies are being poorly equipped to prosecute the perpetrators of cyber attacks, whether they are locally or internationally based. Wêreldwyd is cyberbedreiging beslis die belangrikste aspek van enige land se veiligheid. Met die druk van 'n knoppie kan 'n land en sy mense duisende kilometer verder in gevaar gestel of selfs uitgewis word. Illegal mining is a further ongoing concern across South Africa and the Africa continent, which with our neighbor countries such as Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Swaziland, Lesotho, and 2,500 kilometer sea line, we need the most effective management and border security. Borders and their control has become one of the most hotly debates issued around the world over the last few years. Immigration concerns led to the major political events in 2016. Brexit and Donald Trump becoming president of the USA. While here at home, there have been no calls for build a wall at this stage. The South African-Zimbabwe border is a national disgrace. If you want to bring something across the border, it is wide open for everyone just to cross the border. Drug trafficking over the borders is a serious concern. South Africa police is confiscating heroin to the value of 100 million rand shortly after the vehicle carried passed through the Golela border at Mozambique. The Honourable President Jacob Zuma mentioned in his speech on Freedom Day that there is a lack of contribution and efforts to defeat cross-border crime, and criminals who are taking advantage of this lack of coordination. Safety at our Tambo International Airport in Gauteng has been severely compromised in the past few months, with reports of crime activities on the increase. South Africa lost millions of revenue at our airports. To improve passenger security and speed up the process of moving through checkpoints, airports need to upgrade the systems they use at this stage. While drone offers a great promise to the benefit of society, the ability to detect and control improper illegal use is a critical requirement for public safety, privacy, and also security. Hommeltuie en hulle operateurs neem vinniger toe as wat lugvaartowerhede lisensies kan uitreik. Die probleem met onwettige hommeltuie is dat dit dalk moeilik is om ook die operateurs altyd op te spoor. Suid-Afrika is een van die eerste lande wat wetgewing ingestel het om die hommeltuie te reguleer. Begin 2017 was daar reeds 465 geregistreerde hommeltuie teenoor die 216 die vorige jaar. Nasionale sleutelpunte, reservate, vlieg in slegte weer, besope operateurs en vlieg buite sigbaarheid is verbode. Individue wat die wet vir ons agsaam moet vervolging te wag te wees. In conclusion, we can say that due to the failure to keep up with the technology advantages, as well as the lack of trust between the JSCI committee and the president, the minister and different intelligence sectors, the department is not in a state to protect South Africa optimally. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Mhlongo.
Thank you,
Order, Honourable
Chairperson.
Members.
For corrupt leaders to thrive, state organs are first victims of weakening. We have seen this during the assumption of office by President Zuma, when he had to chase out General Njenje, who advised him on the necessity to launch investigation on closeness of Gupta's to the head of state, which is President Zuma. It is in this particular context, therefore, EFF rejects this state security budget vote, and we will clearly illustrate the reasons behind this. The Minister of State Security, Honorable Minister Mashobo, never refuted the allegations of Al Jazeera on his businessman connections of Beijing, on the connections between him and the businessmen of Beijing, as he is alleged to have actually sold the rhino horns of our country. He is a Minister of State Security. The recent billions of rands snatched by organized criminals in our OR Tambo airport indicate dangers we are facing as a nation in South Africa. Various gruesome killings, especially in KZN, mostly of ANC members, has never been identified as to what is the motive and who are the forces that are killing our own people, irrespective of their political affiliation. This minister is busy trading with rhino horns. General Mdluli, who was
Chairperson.
General Mdluli,
Order, honorable members. Honorable Mshlongo. Honorable Mshlongo, can I just ask this member why she's rising?
I rise in terms of rule. I rise in terms of
Order.
Rule 55.
Yes.
In terms of which Honorable Mashobo, Honorable Mshlongo has made reflections that Honorable Minister Mashobo is dealing in horns. He knows very well that.
Okay,
in terms
I've heard
of
your
the
point of order, honorable member. Honorable Mshlongo, did you say that the honorable minister is busy trading in rhino horns?
no, it's not me who said that. It was Al Jazeera. It
No,
was
honorable
on-
member. Order.
Wait.
Honorable members.
It is the
Honorable
duty,
members.
Honorable Chairperson.
Order.
It is
Order.
the Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair.
Honorable
It is
members.
the duty
Order.
of Honorable Mashobo to dispute what was aired by Al Jazeera about
Honorable-
him. It's not my duty.
Honorable Mshlongo.
Please, it's not me. I didn't say that. It is Al Jazeera.
Honorable Mshlongo. Please, honorable members, calm down.
I cannot withdraw on behalf of Al Jazeera. I'm not a member
Order,
of Al
honorable
Jazeera.
members. Order.
I cannot withdraw
Honorable
on behalf
Mshlongo.
of Al Jazeera. Okay.
Honorable Mshlongo.
Thank you.
Let me deal with this point of order,
Okay.
please.
Yeah.
Honorable Mshlongo,
Yeah.
you must withdraw the remark that you've made. Even if you say that it is a source outside, you brought that source now into the debate. So just
I-
withdraw the remark and continue with your speech, please.
I withdraw, but it was aired by Al Jazeera.
Order. Honorable members, order. Honorable Mshlongo,
Yes.
do you withdraw the remark?
Yes, I do.
Continue, please.
General Mdluli, who wrote a letter to President Zuma, open letter, saying Zuma must assure his stay as a head of crime intelligence. ANC never disputed that, despite the fact that General Mdluli, as a head of crime intelligence, wrote a letter to the sitting head of state to say, as long as Zuma assures him his stay in crime intelligence, he will also assure his re-election as the head of ANC. Yet General Mdluli is alleged to have been a butcher of our people during apartheid struggle. It is this minister, even to date, of intelligence, who has never demanded finalization of that suspension of that man who is still on a payroll of this government.
Chairperson.
Honorable Mshlongo, there's another point of order. Why are you rising, honorable member?
Chairperson, I want you to make a ruling on the member being irrelevant because the topic at hand is the budget vote.
No,
It's
no.
not
Co-
gossips.
No, thank you, honorable member. Continue, honorable Mshlongo.
Siyambonga ke uNkulunkulu osigcinile ukuthi ke sibe siphila ezweni eseliphethwe yilamandiya sendiya oGupta ngoba bengamele uZuma kanye noMinister Mahlobo nayo yonke into yethu sekunuka nje amagupta kulelizwe then kuthiwa ke
Honorable Mhlongo.
masikhomite ilo i-fiscal dumping
Honorable
nothatha imali yabantu
Mhlongo.
bakithi abahluphekayo siyokhokhela into
Honorable
engasebenzi lutho.
Mhlongo. Honorable Mhlongo.
Yeah, thank you.
Honorable Mhlongo, there's just a point of order. Let me take that. May I ask honorable members? Honorable members. Honorable members. We are debating the budget vote on state security. The minister has tabled his budget vote and he has invited a number of guests, departmental officials, members of the public, everyone who are here. Let us behave in a way that projects and portray Parliament as a place of debate and not of shouting at one another.
Yeah.
Let us engage in decent debate. Honorable member, why are you rising?
Thank you so much, Honorable House Chair. May I just rise to advise that Honorable Mhlongo has twice now. I let it slip the first time, I thought it was slip of a tongue. For the second time, he refers to a member of this House, His Excellency the President, in his first name, and he's not supposed to do that. May he please do the right thing.
President Zuma.
Continue, Honorable Mhlongo.
Siyambonga kuNkulunkulu ukuthi phekwa lobunuku
And you have less than a minute left.
esibhekene nabo kulelizwe. Usakwazi ukusigcina. Sonke sibonile lapha endaweni yaseMandeni kwaZulu Natal kubulawa inkosi uMathonsi in execution style. Kuze kube namhlanje. Kuze kube namhlanje. Ngikhuluma ke njengesakhamuzi sakwaZulu. Okokuthi ke kwakunjalo. The country is gone. Siyambonga kuJehova. Siphilela yena. We have got no country. Sekusela ukuthi niqule nithi group talent, group talent.
Honorable Mhlongo, your
South Africa
time is
is
now
gone.
expired. Thank you very much. Order, honorable members. The next speaker is the Honorable Kebekulu.
Honorable House Chair and honorable members. Ngifisa ukuhlala emagameni kaMhlonishwa Mhlongo sihlalo. Sihangelwe inkosi ucele kulezi zinsuku ezedlule nje. Naye edutshulu asazi ubani uboshwe njengoba nje esho uMhlonishwa nenkosi uMathonsi lokho yabulawa akaze kuvele lutho. Siyafisa nakho kube ukuthi uphiko lo liyasebenza. Into my budget debate, Chair, I'd like to state this. There have been serious challenges in the department due to the inordinately long time it had been without an Inspector General of Intelligence. In fact, the entire security cluster has found itself severely handicapped as the intelligence gathering position had remained vacant for too long. This not only hindered the work of the department, but also exposed the nation to unnecessary risks. And we are very pleased that the position has now been recently filled. Challenges have been many and varied, like the aeroplane that ended up landing in one of our neighboring countries, carrying banknotes destined for the South African Reserve Bank, with a body of an advanced state of decomposition, which is classical example, or the drama at Tambo International Airport, or the recent arrest of an individual suspected of raising funds to overthrow the government, or even the fact that our sitting president, our sitting head of state, is allowed to attend a trade union meeting, which it turns out is dangerously hostile to his attendance. Where else on earth would such be allowed to happen? There is a serious security breach waiting to happen in South Africa, and when it does, we will all have ourselves to blame. All this shows the importance of the office of the IG being ably led by an individual of the highest integrity and discipline, and one who will take charge and assume the responsibility of gathering information in order to inform the relevant clusters so that they may act swiftly before any real harm to our people or damage to our property is caused. The department will also require adequate funding and resources in order to ensure that criminals and their nefarious plots are uncovered before people and property are placed in harm's way. The safety of the citizens of our country is the department's greatest responsibility. Our kids on their way to school and parents going and returning from a day's work, and even when staying at home, people must feel safe. Taxpayers dig deep into their pockets when hiring the services of security companies to provide security in their homes and businesses. Organized crime grows daily, and this constitutes a large portion of state security's work. Global terrorism remains on the rise, and we accordingly have a duty not only to our own citizens, but to our global partners to remain ever vigilant for threats to ourselves or the global community at large. Chairperson, ngifisa ukusho lokho okulandelayo. Kuba besinakho ukusukuma ngesikhathi bese ngeke sikubone sakubona kwenzeka eLimpopo la khona kushe khona izikole engacishe ngaphezulu kwama-298. Abantu befuna abakufunayo benganikezwe ithuba lokulalela, kodwa futhi kungekho intelligence engena phakathi kwabo ukuze ivimbe umonakalo owenzekileyo. Ingane zesizwe siphazamisekile kulowo nyaka singakwazi ukwesikole ngesikhathi. Isibonelo sesibili ila khona kushe ama-universities ethu ngemkhankaso ye-Fees Must Fall campaign. Lowo monakalo wawuyovinjwa ngesikhathi ukuba kwakukhona uphiko olumelele ukwenza lo msebenzi. Sasingeke sihlangabezane ney'nselelo lapho khona ogcina kushe ngisho nezinto ezisemqoka zezwe ebeziyosiza intsha ekhulayo ukuthi uma iyofunda ikwazi ukucosha ulwazi khona. Kube ziyinkomba.
Honorable member, your time is now expired.
Konke lokhu sihlalo. Kunjalo ke kodwa IFP iyayisupport budget. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. The next speaker is the Honorable Ngwabe.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson of the House, honorable members, honorable ministers, the deputy ministers, distinguished guests in the gallery. The national security of our country must be the priority for all of us, regardless of our political affiliations. Yes, Chair, there might be one captain of this flight called the South Africa, but we are all in there as passengers, and therefore whatever happens to it in terms of security threats, we all gonna suffer the consequences. The NFP is quite aware that our security agencies plays a vital role in keeping not only South Africans safe, but also the continent and the global community as well. And we like to thank them for such a sterling job they are doing in that regard. However, with the increasing security threats in cyber crimes around the world, we urge our agencies to pull up their socks in this regard. Our agencies must upgrade their standard and equipment in order to counter these threats. Chairperson, cyber crimes are not only the threats that must be monitored, but also the extremist activities in our continent and around the world must be monitored closely. The extremist activities in Nigeria and Syria cannot be ignored, as these extremists even recruit members from our own communities. The NFP note with concern the strange behavior of the president of North Korea, Mr. Kim Jong-un, who can just declare every day an Armed Forces Day whenever he feels angry with the US, Donald Trump. We urge the influential leaders of the world to intervene in these tensions in order to ensure that we continue to have the safe, well community of which we are a member. Honorable Minister, the NFP has no reason to reject your budget. However, we are not sure as to whether is it enough to face or counter all security threats that our country might be facing. We also urge our government to make sure that services are delivered speedily and on time to our people, because sometimes innocent service delivery protests by our people can attract security threats when the foreign evil agencies want to infiltrate our country. Honorable members, it is our duty to exercise oversight in all state departments, including this one. We have full rights to expose all malpractices, poor performances, corruption, and maladministration. However, as we do this job, we must guide against painting a very bad picture of our security agencies to the world. Let us not paint a picture of a useless, backward, and a weak intelligence agency. It doesn't give a good picture that whenever there's a break-in in someone's house and a dinner set is stolen, we'll be the first ones to say it must be the intelligence agencies. All these things do not give a good image of our security agencies in the eyes of the international community, thereby exposing ourselves to international threats on those who might want to take a chance and test the security of our country. As I've said before, we are all in this fight, regardless of our political capes.
Honorable Member, your time is now
In
expired.
conclusion, the NFP supports this budget. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Deputy Minister of State Security.
Honorable Chairperson of the session, Minister of State Security, Ministers and Deputy Ministers here present, Chairperson of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence and members, Director General of South Africa and members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Africans. Chairperson, allow me to acknowledge the presence of two principals from Moroka High School in Tabanchu in the Free State and Grobler's Hoop School in Uppington, Northern Cape. The two schools are among many that we have adopted as the state security in our quest to groom and produce future generation of intelligence officers. In essence, this initiative is a continuation of our program that is intended to take intelligence to the center of our communities. Chairperson, the 4th of February 2017 ushered in the 20th anniversary of South Africa's Constitution that was signed into law by the President Nelson Mandela on the 10th of December 1996 and came into effect on the 4th of February 1997. The theme for the constitutional celebration is My Constitution, My Rights, My Responsibilities. It serves to communicate to all South Africans that with rights and freedoms come responsibilities. This anniversary coincides with the dedication of 2017 as the year to celebrate the values of Oliver Tambo, as was announced by President Jacob Zuma during his State of the Nation address. This is in view of the fact that Oliver Tambo, the former president of the African National Congress, together with the then leaders of the OAU, now AU, championed and espoused the principles of the constitutional order we enjoy today. As the intelligence community of South Africa, we pay allegiance to the Constitution as our primary directive, which contains our national blueprint of the society we seek to build. We are therefore enjoined to protect our Constitution and to ensure that we create the conditions that will enable the further transformation of our society and the consolidation of our hard-won freedoms. We shall therefore continue to protect our constitutional order, our national values as contained in the Bill of Rights, and we shall remain the first line of defense of the Constitution without fear or favor. The global geopolitical outlook is characterized by social instability, uncertainty, and a slow economic growth. Considering that we are part of the global village, whatever happens in the world has direct effect on us, hence the slow economic growth in South Africa. His Excellency President Jacob Zuma has often made the point that political power without economic power is insufficient in bringing about a complete revolution that will deal with our country's economic challenges. Chairperson, one of the critical roles of intelligence services the world over is to advise their governments on threats and opportunities emanating from the global environment, amongst others. It is for this reason that as state security, we are in full support of the government's program of radical economic transformation. This clarion call by our government serves to address the triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. To this end, we shall strengthen our work in support of our government's economic development programs with a view to improve economic growth. Chairperson, we have recently been advised that global cybercrime is on the increase. On Saturday, the world woke up to the news of a global cyber attack which affected more than 100 countries worldwide. This horrifying development is yet another harsh reminder that we should be on the alert against such attacks in our own cyberspace. This means that we need to develop more innovative techniques to protect our cyberspace against unscrupulous elements which will stop at nothing to undermine the integrity of our ICT networks. According to the ICT report released by the World Bank recently, South Africa ranks number 58th out of 138 economies in the ICT sector. As most of us rely heavily on our smartphones and internet to navigate the cyberspace and perform internet banking and other personal activities, this new wave of threat puts South Africa at a high risk of cyber hacking. This calls on us to work together with our partners in Southern Africa, Africa, and the world to combat this threat. The South African Constitution is firmly rooted in the notion of separation of powers, namely the judiciary, legislature, and the executive. Parliament is the legislative authority in the land comprising of two houses, the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. It has power to make laws for the country in accordance with the Constitution. On the other hand, the executive authority is vested in the President, who is the head of state and head of government, and his cabinet. The President is elected by Parliament to serve a fixed term. The judiciary depends on moral authority to be an arbiter in disputes between organs of state and citizens. According to Mr. Myongana, in his paper titled, "The Judiciary as the Site of Struggle for Political Power, a South African Perspective," has this to say in his conclusion, I quote, "As a final arbiter in the disputes, the courts will not avoid getting involved in disputes of a political nature. Elements of bias, whether imagined or real, will always arise, but the judiciary has a task to ensure that the courts continue to command moral authority. The first step towards legitimacy and commanding authority is for the courts to be independent and execute their mandate without fear, favor, or prejudice. The apartheid judiciary failed to do this. In the early years of constitutional democracy, the courts managed to keep their independence. However, the last few years have witnessed heightened tensions, which are directly related to the succession battle within the majority ruling party. This succession battle to the highest seat in the land turned the judiciary into the site of political struggle. Whether the damage was done to the image of the judiciary as a result or not, only time will tell, close quotes. In lieu of the responsibility that state security has reflected above, in order for us to be well positioned to deliver our mandate, we need to ensure that we position intelligence at the center of government, and in particular as the risk management agency of government. To this end, we have cast our eyes beyond the immediate security challenges and the kind of state security agency that is geared towards the challenges of the 21st century. In our view, the national security threats that will confront South Africa to the future have their origins in 5 strategic driving forces, namely the inadequate political and economic transformation, inappropriate management of demographic forces, negative shifts in global power configurations, critical technology-related variables, and climate change. State security has developed a strategic perspective that is premised on the National Development Plan, but extends it to the year 2035. We believe that as the national risk management capacity of the state, the agency should have a strategic vision on national security matters that goes beyond the NDP in order to provide early
Honorable
warning
Minister, you're left with 1 minute.
on potential threats and dangers which may confront our country and her people. Chairperson, I have alluded to the school program when I started. We have undertaken to engage with our young people in high schools, enlighten them about the work that we do, with a hope to planting a seed of some of them to join our community after completing their matric and junior degrees. This program is premised on the need to infuse within our agency young talented people with relevant skills that are aligned to the vision of a risk management entity of government, operating in global environment but promoting the attainment of domestic priorities. In conclusion, Chairperson, our country's constitutional democracy is maturing, having turned 23 years old. As part of this maturity, the country will go through challenges, both politically and economically. We are, however, encouraged by the resilience of our institutions that have continued to withstand any shocks.
Honorable Deputy Minister, your time has expired.
The ANC supports this budget.
The next speaker is Honorable P.J. Groenewald.
Agbare voorsitter, ek wil vir die agbare minister vra. Minister, het u nou al die intelligensieverslag wat van Londen afgekom gelees? Want u is op rekord, u het dit nie gelees nie. Besef u wat is die implikasies dat u sê, but I didn't read the intelligence report. The implication is that the President of South Africa is in charge of the state security. That is what it is. Because even the minister, the political head, said, I didn't read the report. But the President reacts on an intelligence report from London. So you have to answer to the people of South Africa, who's in control. And then I also want to say that there's quite a worry from the Honourable Minister that foreign forces are busy in South Africa because they want a regime change. Let me say a regime change will be good for South Africa. That I don't want to put on record. But I want to tell you, I'm worried about the internal forces destabilizing South Africa. And I want to use specifically the Kulini case. 2 days before the march took place, there was a man, Tebele. He walked around the community. He went to the shops and told them, you must close the shops. The problems are coming. That is an internal issue. I want to make the statement and to say that the present regime is so nervous about losing control that they are misusing the internal safety of South Africa. Yes, I hear the Honourable Charles Nkakula said, we must protect and ensure the safety of the people of South Africa. He knows who I'm referring to, don't you worry. So what I want to say is, that is where the problem lies. Because the people of South Africa are not protected. I want to make the statement to say that the present government is misusing internal forces to destabilize communities, and that under a smokescreen of racism, to get criminals to loot, to burn, and to threaten the community. And that's a further proof that you don't do your job. En ek wil 'n beroep op die agbare minister doen. Minister, u is in diens van Suid-Afrika. U is nie in diens van die president van Suid-Afrika nie. As u sê u wil veiligheid verseker vir die mense van Suid-Afrika, dan wil ek vir u sê, los die politieke koneksies, begin u werk doen, en sorg dat as daar intelligensieverslae kom, dat dit geverifieer is en dat u as politieke hoof dit eers lees en nie eers die president nie, want dit beteken hy vat die werk uit u hande uit. Ek dank u.
Point of order, Honorable Chair. Honorable Groenewald.
Unfortunately, his time has expired.
You can ask his question, he's welcome.
Now your time has expired, Honorable Groenewald.
Well, that's a pity, I would love to give you the answer.
The point of order is that he is factually misleading the House to say that the internal forces are destabilizing the communities at the behest of the government. Because if that is the case, he should have reported such a matter to the government. That's factually misleading.
No, who's the government?
No, thanks very much. Well, that's a point for debate, and that's Mr. Groenewald's opinion, so we can't entertain that. The next speaker is Honorable Z.S. Tubazan.
Honorable Chairperson.
Lamin Tubazan.
Honorable Chairperson, on a point of order. Can I ask you to request the honorable members that they have to stay awake if they want to ask questions in time? Thank you.
Honorable Tubazan.
Honorable House Chair, Honorable Deputy President, Honorable members, Honorable Minister of State Security and the Deputy Minister, the department led by the DG, Mr. Arthur Fraser Sanbonani. The ANC strongly believes to a theme which says that do more with little. The main reason for that is that we are all aware that there are fiscal constraints, but as a result, Chairperson, we still have to do more because we have got the vows with the community. Our vows are make sure that we provide safety, make sure that we provide the security. And we are saying to the South Africans, ANC is taking that to heart. Indeed, we shall do that in making sure that we are doing that. Honorable House Chairperson, let me tell the story. On Monday, Mr. Stradom, who went to prison number 4 in Johannesburg and look at what was happening and listen to the stories, he says, I quote him, "How do I forgive after I've heard about the things that happened into this prison?" I close quote. That prison is the prison which captured Abu Mamgui. That prison is the prison which captured Abu Babu Joslovo. And today, the people, they look at the state security like it is sitting and not doing anything and forgetting the yesterday. The ANC recognized the seriousness of the illicit economic activities that are conducted within our country. I just want to maybe to give some little lecture that when you talk about illicit economy, we're not referring to the cash, like the members in this house will talk about the Guptas. Illicit economy refers to the human trafficking. Illicit economy refers to the counterfeit of goods. Illicit economy, it means a lot of things. So it's either you shush your, close your ears if you don't know and you have never been to school. Illicit economy includes so many things. And as a result, it is for this reason that the minister with his department, together with the deputy minister, they are taking this concept of illicit economy and making sure that they drive the ANC values of ensuring that South Africans are all safe, irrespective of the color, of the creed, across the spectrum. Honorable House Chairperson, as the ANC, we also acknowledge that there is a problem when we try to make sure that we deploy the cadres to the places which we strongly believe they should be there. And remember, I am endorsing it because when we deploy a trained, professional, experienced cadre for one reason. You can't buy the honesty. You can't buy loyalty. There is no price for that. I don't care how much you're shouting at me, but the bottom line is that because of that, the ANC will do it and nobody is going to stop us to do that. Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson, as ANC, we are also saying that there are microeconomic factors which are so bad that they are affecting, the guilty, they always feel bad. Because they are so bad in such a way that they are automatically dropping the economic outlook. They are automatically dropping the currency. They are dropping so much. As a result, this is what the ANC is saying. We find ourselves have to work and do more with little because the three enemies are still there. That's inequality, that's unemployment, that's poverty, and we need to fight with that. And based on that, we need to make sure that, Honorable Chairperson, what the State Security Department has done, we appreciate it. They've established a unit which is called the Research and Development and Analysis Unit. But as we appreciate that, Honorable Minister and your department, however though, we
On a
are
point
saying,
of order, Chair.
we will appreciate.
Honourable member, there's a point of order. Yes. What's the point
Chair,
of order?
The guest at the gallery is not supposed to take part in the debate, and they are continuing making statements behind us, and they are not allowed to take part in the debate. This guy is continuing. And if he continues, he needs to be thrown out because this is our debate, this is our work, and he's not supposed to take part in the debate. So I would expect
Point
an
taken,
immediate ruling
Honourable Member.
because these guys are it's rude, the things that they are throwing at us.
Yes. No. Thanks very much for bringing that to attention. I'm sure guests are aware that they are not supposed to participate in the debate. So we want to make a special plea. I've not heard them participating, but if they are, I want to make a special plea that guests should know that you are not part of the debate. Continue, Honourable Member.
Thank you so much, Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair, I was interrupted when I was endorsing and appreciating as an ANC an initiative that was taken by the Department of State and Security to establish the Research, the Development and Analysis Unit. And when I was about to interrupt it, I was actually saying what the ANC is saying, irrespective that we are appreciating, we are saying we will appreciate that that unit is being headed by the cadre that is trained, professional and experienced. We will, because we want loyalty. People's behavior you can't determine and confirm. So you rather have a trained and experienced. But over and above that, we are saying we need to have an economic intelligence unit. Because with that unit, it is going to be so critical that while you've got that division, then the information gets collected, it's able to be analyzed and be given to the relevant our departments that are to make sure that we then act ahead of time to stop any economic risk rather than to be reactive. So based on that, indeed, we are saying, well done. That shows that indeed you are going to do more. Now, some of the things that were highlighted by the members that they came before me, it is so hurting that you decide not to be within a space which is going to enlighten and empower you and give you more information.
Honourable Member, you are left with 1 minute.
And the issues that pertain the country that are sensitive, and you come here and you mislead the community of South Africa. There are no internal forces that are destabilizing this unit. It is only the very same people who come here, who run away for the vetting when they are being called and to come to the camp and to be vetted. So we know ANC support this budget number 7. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable Carter, is she here? I've not seen her. She's not here. And then the next one is Honorable Smith.
Honourable Chair, it is a task of a regularised and neutral intelligence aid community to provide government and the South African public with independent risk assessments to protect the communities they serve. We have, however, recently seen the Intelligence Committee either being partisan to ANC factional battles or being misused by politicians. Both scenarios are inexcusable in a modern constitutional democratic dispensation. The recent use by the President of the so-called intelligence report to fire the former finance minister and his deputy can only mean that a certain structure of the intelligence society used the report to assist President Zuma to settle a factional dispute in having the minister and his deputy fired. Alternatively, it possibly means that an intelligence structure may have used an intelligence report to obtain a political outcome suitable to its political masters. Both scenarios are unacceptable and illustrate unconstitutional actions by intelligence structures and the ANC government, which should be rooted out immediately. Following legal action by the DA, requesting reasons from the President as to why he fired Minister Pravin Gordhan and Deputy Minister Kebesi Jonas, the truth will soon be revealed. The legal framework of the intelligence services appeared to be defective and in need of reconsideration. Acts reflecting the approach by the previous apartheid government are still in the statute books, and despite the General Laws Amendment Act passed in 2013, a careful analysis of the legal framework is required to ensure that it conforms to the Constitution. Urgent attention by the Standing Committee on Intelligence is therefore required in this regard. Recent media coverage concerning Minister David Maslobo and his alleged links with a massage parlor owner have done a major disservice to the services. The unfortunate death of a motorist in which the ANC's minister's official vehicle was involved has created further damage to the image and integrity of the intelligence services and its political head. As a broader democratic society, we are duty-bound to keep the intelligence services to account. The recent appointment of the Inspector General of Intelligence, the IGI, will assist in dealing with complaints against intelligence structures. It is important that the IGI remains independent and alert to any alleged form of kleptocracy or autocracy by the services and report fearlessly to the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. The latest media reports relating to the global virus cryworm illustrates the need for effective cybersecurity measures in curbing a growing cyber war phenomenon. South Africa needs to be able to rely on modern and effective equipment in rooting out this illegal activity in a responsible and accountable manner. It is clear that more needs to be done in this respect. We are all duty-bound to ensure that the intelligence services accounts responsibly and act in a responsible manner. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable Titi Kamede.
Thank you, Chair. First things first, the ANC supports this budget vote. Yes, of course. And where I come from, they always say, "Kuhlale kukhona onontando kubukwa," without showing anything of substance. In this budget, and for this department specifically, it is about information collection, information gathering, and supplying it to the relevant authorities. As we speak right now, South Africa is facing a wave of hostility that is led in the main because some people lack some information of foreign-sponsored people. Wave of hostility refers to propaganda, stain campaign aimed at mutilating, at the West, liquidating the governing party. The purpose is to invoke unprecedented hostility towards the government by citizenry and thus unleash a choreographed and systematically orchestrated resentment that may lead to an open rebellion This is aimed at derailing the government transformation, and it's not new to South Africa. It has happened in other countries, starting from Vietnam. Over the years, the government, through the Liberation Constitution, has allowed some foreign-funded NGOs and agencies to operate freely in this country. These agencies portray themselves as humanitarian agencies, whilst they also seek to undermine a democratically elected government. We have seen the mushrooming of these NGOs and most recently foundations. They have infiltrated different areas of society, including the judiciary, which they have effectively turned into a collusion against the government. This is visible through the active role of information peddlers. Some are also here in Parliament and in this House. In the majority of cases, information peddlers have been serving as convenient conduits used by Western governments to orchestrate disinformation, dirty tricks, social engineering, and overall covert operations aimed at hurting the reputation of this government and its leaders. It is notable that the majority of individual information peddlers who had links with apartheid security agencies at pre-1994 period remain active. Most of these individuals are currently active in private intelligence companies or work as individual intelligence consultants. We really miss some of the members of this House in this committee who do not attend there for one or other reasons. Otherwise, they will be empowered. There's also the privatization of the prosecutions. This is part of an offensive against the government. Although private prosecution is one of the options made available in the South African litigation system, the adoption of this route is suspect. Intelligence observations indicate that private prosecution is aimed at reinforcing legal-based campaign against this government that is led by the ANC. This is because some NGOs behind the establishment of private prosecution have been pursuing a legal route centered on the exploitation of the Section 89 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. To have, for instance, some people enjoy, because they have got nothing else to do, they will always say the president must be removed from office. On grounds of any serious misconduct or violation. There is also that submersion of government processes through the courts of law. The Constitution empowers the judiciary to review and set aside any legislation which it deems to be inconsistent with the spirit and object of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. The Constitutional Court is empowered to interpret the Constitution, by so doing often delve into matters belonging to the political arena, thus interfering with the functioning of the executive and the legislature. In practice, it means that judges, regardless of race, majority have been inherited from the apartheid legal systems, are better positioned to subvert and or sabotage the government's transformation agenda. The South African legal system has allowed foreign-funded NGOs to continuously frustrate governance processes through court proceedings. The untransformed legal system in South Africa continues to serve the interests of the few Anglo-American interests at the expense of the majority who are at the receiving end of injustice. When the government attempts to reform the legal systems, NGOs accuse it of staking the judicial system with a compliant political voices. There are also efforts to control the legislative process. Foreign-sponsored agencies are also involved in attempts to control and shape the legislative process in South Africa. To date, they have managed to delay the finalization of the State Information Bill and its enactment into law. This is because the bill is aimed at protecting South African state against hostile foreign forces. Contrary to the attitude towards the protection of State Information Bill, foreign-funded NGOs were pressuring the state president to sign the Financial Intelligence Center Amendment Bill into law.
Honorable Member, you have 1 minute left.
There are two, in conclusion, Chair, there are two major things which might bring stability into our country. One is to speed up radical economic transformation. Two is the expropriation of land without compensation. On this one, my branches are mandated me to submit a motion, watch this space. Lastly, I want to thank the Minister and the Deputy Minister of State Security. If it were not of you, with your vision and foresight, South Africa would be in ashes by now. I thank you.
Order. Thank you very much.
Honourable Chair.
The next speaker is Honorable
Chair,
DJ Stu.
on a point of order.
What is the point of order?
Chair, I think you must rule on it and then make it very serious, because I think this facility is not proper for us to have debates. As interjecting for us as members of parliament, it's allowed. And I think to guests, they feel the need to participate in our interjections. And I think that is not allowed. We as members of parliament are voted in, and it's our constitutional
No, it's
right.
okay,
to
Honorable
take part
Member. I've
in this
heard
debate.
you.
No, it's a very serious
No, I've
offense.
heard your point. I've heard your
We
point.
can have security breaches here.
No, I've heard your point.
Sit
down.
must take note. Please, I'm not finished
No,
with
sit
my
down.
point
I've
of
heard your
order.
point. No, thanks very much. The next speaker is Honorable Stoop.
Honorable Chair, you need to rule on it. I've called a point of order. You need to rule on it. That is how it works. I know that you may be new in it, but you're not new in Parliament.
No, I've
that's
ruled.
the point of order.
No,
You need
sit
to
down,
rule on
Honorable
it.
Member. No, sit down. I've ruled on the matter. No, I've ruled on the matter earlier on. And I've not heard anybody interjection. Yes, I've not heard anybody. I'm saying I've not heard anybody interjecting and participating in the debate. You might have heard yourself, and I'm saying, listen.
On a point of order, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chair, on a point of order. On a point of order. Honorable Chair.
No, I'm not.
Honorable Chairperson, on a point
you
of
can't-
order.
No, you can't behave in the manner that you're behaving, Honorable Member.
I rest my case.
I've ruled on this. No, I've ruled on this matter. You can't continue arguing on the basis of the rule that I've made. That's not being honorable. Now, I've ruled on the matter. So what do you want me to do? No, I've ruled on the matter.
Agbare voorzitter, punt van orde.
Honorable Groenewald.
Chair, can I ask that we restore order? Can you just appeal to the public again, please, to restrain from any comments? Then we can continue. Thank you.
House Chair, this side.
Honorable Ngoni.
House Chair, in terms of the string of orders that have been raised, the point raised by Honorable Low had been raised earlier on which you ruled. She's unduly repeating herself, and she's not supposed to do that. The second one, we just request your courtesy, Chair, that when you take points of order on the floor, you also look this side, because
Order, Honorable Low. The member is on the floor. You must respect him as well. Honorable Ngoni, proceed.
The Honorable Deputy Chief Whip had her hand up for quite some time, even before Honorable Groenewald, who just stood and spoke to the mic without having been pointed to. I thank you, Chair.
No, thanks very much. I've said the public, you are allowed to have been invited to be part of this, but you are not allowed to debate or participate or interfere into the whole of the discussion that is taking place. You are here to observe, nothing else, nothing more. Can we make a special plea to the members of the gallery to respect that? Thank you very much. Honorable Stoop, can you proceed?
Voorsitter, ek hoop nie my tyd is al om nie, maar
No, ja.
Baie dankie. Een van die funksies en verantwoordelikhede van die Staatsveiligheidsagentskap is om die inwoners van Suid-Afrika te beskerm teen buitelandse bedreiging. Ons is relatief veilig as gevolg van amptenare wat 'n positiewe ingesteldheid en 'n passie het vir hulle land en hul beroep. Terrorisme maak wêreldwyd opslaa en die vraag ontstaan of ons intelligensiedienste kan volhard om enige vorm van terreur af te weer. Verskeie faktore maak dat Suid-Afrika 'n ideale teelaarde kan ontwikkel waar ekstremiste kan gedei. In die onlangse verlede was daar dan ook verskeie insidente wat daarop dui dat Suid-Afrika 'n terreuraanval te wagte kan wees. Die aanwesigheid van ongewenste persone is 'n direkte uitvloei van korrupsie in departemente wat georganiseerde misdaad ondersteun. Dit, minister, is 'n bedreiging vir die staat. Daar is nie groei in ons ekonomie nie. Dit veroorsaak dat duisende mense werkloos is en in armoede lewe sonder behoorlike dienslewering. Dit is 'n bedreiging. Onwettige handel in dwelms, ivoor en renosterhoring is 'n bedreiging. Die eenheid wat in die Suid-Afrikaanse Inkomstediens gevestig is om die smokkelhandel in sigarette te bekamp word se muur ontbind en persone word afgedank. Op hierdie wyse word lede van die regerende party beskerm en die smokkelhandel kan ongestoord voortgaan. Minister, dit is 'n bedreiging. President Jacob Zuma se beheptheid met die Gupta-familie en staatskaping het gelei tot die voormalige minister van Finansies se afdanke. Minister, dit is 'n bedreiging. Ons kredietgradering wat tot rommelstatus geklassifiseer is 'n direkte uitvloeisel van die president se onbesonde beheptheid met die Gupta-plunderaars. Maar minister, u sien dit blykbaar nie as 'n bedreiging vir die staat se veiligheid nie. In steede dat u eerder 'n positiewe rol speel om die ekonomie te beskerm en daardeur te verseker dat daar vir almal werksgeleenthede geskep word, verkies u om dit wat opsigtelik verkeerd is te beskerm. Dit is dan ook geen wonder dat u om al die verkeerde redes in die pers aangehaal word nie. En ek noem maar 'n paar. Dit begin in 2015 met die opening van die parlement toe u opdrag gegee het dat alle selfoonsyne geblokkeer word. 6 Maart 2015, 'n verklaring deur u departement dat advokaat Tuli Manosela en ander ondersoek word vir hulle betrokkenheid by die CIA. 16 Augustus, u versoek aan Tuli Zuma om die presidentswoning te verlaat. 26 September, u aankondiging dat Arthur Fraser as direkteur-generaal aangestel word, ten spyte van die aantuigings teen hom in die Mail en Guardian. 13 November, Al Jazeera se verslag rakende u beweerde betrokkenheid by onwettige handel met renosterhorings. 9 Desember word u daarvan beskuldig dat 'n nuwe vakbond gestig word om die ANC vakbond dit te destabiliseer. 31 Januarie 2017, u ontkenning dat u met Msebo Dlamini van Fees Must Fall vergader het, terwyl hy kort van tevore verklaar het dat hy by verskeie geleenthede by u aan huis was. 26 Februarie, verwysend na 'n perskonferensie op 2 Maart 2016, wat verband hou met 27 beselagtige klagtes teen lede van die SARS Rogue Unit. 5 Maart, uitsprake rondom attempts at regime change. 6 Maart, die beperking van sosiale media en internet. En laastens op 11 Mei 2017 in 'n Mail and Guardian opinieartikel wat ook na verskeie negatiewe insidente verwys waarby u glo betrokke sou wees. Minister, iets is drasties verkeerd by u departement. Die DA sal verseker dat daar skoon effektiewe administrasie kom waar die regte en veiligheid van almal beskerm word in steede van 'n diens wat daarop ingestel is om die negatiewe en bevoordeelde elite te beskerm. Dit sal help om ons demokrasie weer op koers te kry. Ek dank u.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable J.J. Skosane.
Honorable Chairperson, His Excellency Deputy President, Honorable Minister of State Security and Deputy Minister Mulekane, Honorable Ministers present here and Deputy Ministers, Chairperson of Portfolio Committee, Babu Ngakula, DG of State Security, and IG, Dr. Dintwe, honorable members, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans, I greet you all. Egameni lehlangano ebusayo kwi-African National Congress, ngisikima nokwamukela nokusekela i-budget vote kaNgqongqoshe ubaba uMahlobo nokuhlathulula kabanzi nomgomo wokubereka komnyango wezobuhloli State Security Agency. Lo mnyango uhlathulula kabanzi ukuthi uzokubereka njani ngentshijilo abahlangabezana nazo. I should think, Honorable Chairperson, it's important to indicate that the government planning process through the National Development Plan sets out a clear vision of where we would like to be as this country in 2030. It talks of how we would have dealt with the triple challenges of unemployment, inequality, and poverty. But in order for this country to achieve its objective, we need to ensure that we have a plan to protect the critical information infrastructure of government, which houses information databases of millions and millions of ordinary South Africans. The threat that arises from unsecured cyberspace for our country is huge. For instance, disruption in governance, economic activity, the delivery of essential services such as water and electricity supply, transport security, health, and many more. The blunting of political and economic and competitive edge resulting from the compromising of sensitive information system or the manipulation thereof. Significant losses incurred as results of cybercrime of various forms, infringement of the sovereignty of democratic governance and political process, inclusive of elections as we have seen in the USA. Exploitation of the cybersphere as an enabler for other forms of crime, undemocratic and illegal activities. The African National Congress policy document have always sought to position that develops a roadmap towards the fourth industrial revolution and ensuring that our ICT industry does become a significant driver of the national democratic revolution and the attainment of the non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous South Africa. The State Security Agency must be given the support it needs in order to deliver on its mandate and help protect our cyberspace. Chairperson, let me pause a while. I'll come back to my speech. Let me address some of few issues here. One, the issue of intelligence report vis-a-vis given by the President to the former Minister of Finance, Comrade Pravin. I don't know, Chairperson, why the FFP is having so interest on this matter. Pravin is a member of the ANC, is not the member of the Freedom Front, even if that changes has been made. I don't think it's proper for anyone to lament on the matter. There are legal processes. If you want to pursue the matter, just process the matter on the legal processes. Honorable Chairperson, the President has used the rules and the Constitution to deal with his work on the reshuffling and so on. We can't just come here and stand and talk about the intelligence report all the time. Honorable Chairperson, I must say the issue of appointment of Inspector General took such a long time. It was because not all of us were agreeing on this matter. As Parliament, we were disagreeing on the matter, but we found a way until we come up with the name of the newly appointed inspector by the name of Dr. Dintwe. We do have an Inspector General now. Now, on the issue of a rhino poaching, those who do not know, this rhino poaching belongs to the environmental affairs. If you want any information about it, go to the Environmental Affairs or come to me after this debate. I will give you more information on this matter of rhino poaching from the Environmental Affairs. Honorable Chairperson, I've got a problem. Uma umuntu bemthumela impini uthamba uyolwa impi. Afike lapha alwa impi engeyona angayaziko. Like Honorable Mhlongo from the EFF, uze lana uzokhuluma ngo-president, uzokhuluma ngama-Gupta. In the state security, we don't have Guptas, we don't have state security, we don't have the president who's dealing with issues of the intelligence. Thina into esiyenzako lapha, sidila with intelligence matters. Uza la uzokhuluma ngento zamapolisa, uzokhuluma ngobaba uMdluli. I don't know, Chairperson, whether begabona ukuthi wrong platform or begangaboni, but mina I just assume ukuthi begangazi ukuthi ukuphi, but ehamba uyolwa wafika walimpe angayaziyo. Akayazi lempi. And Honorable Mhlongo from the EFF and your colleagues were still waiting for your member who have been in fact sent to us to work in this intelligence committee. That member must come for a vetting. And if you have got an interest, anyone who's having an interest on intelligence matter, come along, we'll give you an opportunity, you will be vetted and you will participate fully and will know how do you talk about the issues of intelligence.
Point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair.
Yes, Honourable Member, what's the point of order?
EFF has got a lot of work. It cannot go to a
No,
useless committee.
no,
like
Honourable
this.
Member, that's not a point of order. Continue, Honourable Member.
Honorable Chairperson, in order to address these deficiencies and the risks posed by cyber security, the SSA has prioritized the following initiatives and actions. One, fast-track the capacitation of cybersecurity structures as envisaged by the National Cybersecurity Policy Framework. This includes the National Cybersecurity Center, strengthening cooperation on cybersecurity with SADC, AU, and BRICS partners.
You have 1 minute left, Honourable Member.
Finalize consultations on the National Cybersecurity Policy with the public and sector. Honorable Chairperson, as I conclude, I like to say, as ANC, we support the budget. Siragela, Pambili, nokuvikela iphasi lekhethu. ISouth Africa, siyaqhuba, ritswela pili. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now call upon the Minister of State Security.
Honorable Chair of the session.
Order.
To His Excellency, our Deputy President Ramaphosa, we want to, on behalf of the department, we want to thank the members for their input. But with due respect to those who sit with us in the committee, I must be able to raise my disappointment. And I must be able to thank His Honorable Mwabe. Security of our country is everybody's business. And with an agreement that whatever we do, we'll put our politics aside. But ultimately, when some of these things happened here, I was reminded by the words of our former President Tambo that I want to repeat for South Africa to see through us as leaders. I quote, "The victories of the national reparation movements were in most cases not easy, smooth and complete, nor was the retreat of the imperialist ways always unplanned or a complete defeat. Imperialism resorted to many political, military, economic, and other stratagems to extend its lease of life and to save as much as it could in its erstwhile colonies. South Africa will never be an exception. They will not let us go. There is a issue that confronts us as leaders here. Leaders across the globe, even in our own country, you have a unique opportunity to advance humanity by developing policies and strategies that must promote peace and stability, which is coexistence. As South Africans, let's live up to the reality that when we raise security issues, either political, economical, there's a fundamental issue that has become a problem, our economy. We must agree that as a nation, as we continue with this path to try to defend the status quo, the system is unsustainable. We cannot, as a nation, when the majority of our people continue to be held back in their own country of birth by economic bondages. Our majority of our people are still suffering from poverty, inequality, and unemployment. These people are human too. Let's work tirelessly in our own diversity as South Africans and through a united action to embrace and strengthen within them and realize their potential. We are not going to run away to give hope and a vision what the ANC stand for, because there are those who are offering nothing, who are in a journey to build a country where a society is going to be truly united, will be non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, but more importantly, prosperity. You can have something today, but if others, they continue to be poor, the children of the poor are going to eat the children of the rich. That's not sustainable. With due respect, there are those people who come with revolutionary slogans. They will never give you a revolutionary advance. Mhlonishwa Babenjoman, hayi ubukhuluma ngenye debate. Uhlanganisa amaphoyisa, uhlanganisa nathi. Ngelinye ilanga nje nithola ithuba lokuletha ilunga lenu elimqoka. Sizokwazi ukuthi silivete but uhlanganisa izinto. Amalunga ahloniphekile. They must be knowledgeable people. They must, when they speak about the issues of the state, and speak correctly. Ndabezitha Xabekhulu, thank you very much. Any death, irrespective of our standing, we regret that, and we know what we need to be able to do whatever it takes. Our condolences to those people who have lost their lives. But to try to use any death to score political points is stooping low. We must be able as a nation to say crime does not pay, and we must be able to deal with. On terrorism, as the last point, we want to thank our guests that are here, especially from the Muslim Judicial Council that are here. We have avoided as South African to reduce matters of terrorism to religion. And we work with these communities tirelessly behind the scenes because we don't want it to be getting any acclamation. And tirelessly, we continue with have the men and women who keep our country safe, whether state security, crime intelligence, and defense intelligence. The leadership of defense is here. The leadership of the police is here. These men and women, they are our unsung heroes and heroines. You will continue to enjoy your liberties and freedoms because we are not going to rest on our laurels until South Africa achieves its visions. But along the way, there will be detractors.
Honorable
and we are not
Minister,
going to be distracted.
your time is now expired.
Lastly, again, I want to thank the leadership of the ANC, our president, our deputy president, the leadership from provinces, the Youth League, MKMVA, and more importantly, my wife, my sisters, and my cousins.
Honorable Minister, your time is expired. Honorable members, you are reminded that the debate on higher education and training budget will take place at 4:15 p.m. in the National Assembly Chamber, the debate on health in the Old Assembly Chamber, and the debate on mineral resources here at 4:15 p.m., all three debates. That concludes the debate and the budget and the business of this mini plenary session. The plenary will now rise.